creating scary stories. So today, somebody on Google Plus mentioned you in relationship to Guillermo del Toro, which I thought was really nice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
nice.
some really scary stuff. And so this is being recorded and it's on my blog. So why don't you first tell us a little bit about yourself because you've been writing stories for a long time.
Yeah. So I'm originally from France and from the south of France, a small town called Arles. It's well known for two things. Van Gogh used to be there and did some of his masterpiece, and Arles was an important city during the Roman Empire. So it's a very touristic place. You have a lot of Roman ruins. And I'm starting with that because when I was a teenager and when I was young, um, I remember that I was really impacted by the fact that I was living in a city who has been there for many centuries. So as a teenager living in a place where you have so many ruins around you, old stone, those create a gap between the modern life and the secrets or the story that used to be in that place. So it did inspire me a lot in terms of how much I got inspired by locations over people. And while I grew up, I was a very creative guy and very into writing stories, creating stories in his head and on paper, drawing. But I was also very structured, so I went into an engineer career. I have an engineer background, and that offered me another great opportunity in my life, which was traveling. I got the chance to travel and live actually in countries in South America. That was actually the first place where I moved abroad when I was in my 20s. And I spent 2 years in Argentina, 1 year in Mexico, because I was always better in Spanish than I was in English. So very my really
Okay.
my second language is Spanish over English. And while I was in Argentina, I actually wrote a short story on a workshop which was in Spanish. And it was obviously a dark story because I've always been interested by stories that happens at night. And that was a story of a taxi driver who got lost in that city, which was Cordoba in Argentina. So briefly, long story short, I got really inspired by location and mysteries in big cities, and that experience of doing this short in Argentina led me to leave my career as an engineer and move to the movie industry. And I worked for several years as an assistant producer, and I got a chance to do a workshop in screenwriting in France mid 2000, and that led me to become a screenwriter for TV. And I worked for TV for almost 7 years as a writer, TV writer for
Right.
about.
You did, and at that time when you were writing for TV, you were writing in a variety of media. I mean, it wasn't all horror at all. It was
Yeah, it
just
was
comedy and a lot of different things.
exactly. In France, we have a tradition of procedural. So procedural, usually, those crime investigation case.
Yeah, we
Uh,
have that here too. It's
yeah,
call it police procedural here.
exactly. And what I really like while I was writing for TV in France is the research part of the writing, which requires you to really explore a specific field and discover something unique about that field. It could be wine tasting, for example, or the world of wineries, or the world of I don't know. It could be world of the homeless in Paris. And by just investigating a specific field that will be where your crime takes place, you discover a thing that could be interesting to tell to people through the story. So it has this kind of a journalistic approach. And while I was writing for TV in France, I also had another job in a web agency. That was another passion of mine. And I started producing my own content, which was always stories that happen at night